All right, so welcome to joining us on episode 3. Last week you heard a little bit about how we met and lived together and vulnerability in our relationship. And today we were going to talk about the scary word communication.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which apparently everyone is horrified about. And it's definitely I did learn today, which this was not shocking at all, but the number one reason that relationships fail is lack of communication, which is not shocking. And then that lack of communication breeds into 1,000 different other problems. And then, same end result. And a lot of times to have that good communication, you have to have the other scary word, vulnerability.
Whoa. Yeah. And that being said, I mean, there are a lot of things that we can play in with communication. I think the main topics to hit is like past relationships on our end of where we even lacked communication and where the other person did and why it overall failed.
You probably have a lot more stories on that than me.
Absolutely. I think that looking back on all of my relationships, they definitely, besides my most recent relationship, they definitely probably all ended due to lack of communication. I'm not going to put blame on one person. It takes two, of course. But yeah, I think that my relationship standards and why they haven't worked out is because of the big word, communication.
Yeah, and then I come from, I guess for all of the listeners, I've only dated officially 2 people. So I have a lot less of past relationship stories, but I still have a little bit to tell. So
yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't look at it as a bad thing that you've only been in 2.
No, it's not. It's interesting because when I was younger, I hate saying that. Growing up, even until like a couple years ago, I was always like, maybe it's bad no one wants to date me. But you know what? And this is something that Morgan and I have talked about. I've told her multiple times. I'm like, you know what? I spared myself so much bullshit. So I am doing fine with this now. When you're younger, we live in such a society that's very like relationship. So then when like you're not having that, you can like look down on yourself. But in the end, I feel like I came out okay. So
you absolutely did. And I look back and like, I wish I would have been where you were because you've seen every relationship I've been in while in Nashville. You have been a part of it. Like, no.
I think there might have been one I didn't really meet, but
Barbie.
What the heck is Barbie?
That's something that we'll have to talk.
Where are they from? Kentucky?
Yeah.
Okay.
Went to school in Kentucky.
That's funny. I can keep up with who you've got based on what state they're in.
Now you're calling me out.
Yeah, or city for that one. I'm used to that one.
Oh, Boston.
Yeah.
Good old Boston.
Kentucky, and Texas.
Yeah. Texas is all good with Texas.
Yeah.
George Strait even said, all my exes live in Texas. I'm glad I have that one there because she is not bad. But Boston and Barbie can fuck off.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no, for real. Okay. Let me take that back because we're working on growth here and even communication as well. Those 2 relationships definitely lacked a lot of communication and a lot of being invalid. My feelings were invalid. And even with them, I may have made them feel like they were invalid. But those 2 relationships lacked a big thing of communication and understanding of one another. And I will say, looking back, even though it hurt me, of course, going through that, I definitely learned from those relationships of what I would put up with in my future relationships and what I would not. And simply, I will not put up with someone who cannot communicate with me and be honest. And so I shout out to them. Thank you for for putting me through that, because I did learn a lot, and you do not need to fuck off. I hope you both are doing great with your lives.
Hopefully, they also learned a lesson.
Yeah. I don't really, I mean, I hope they did, but I don't really know. I don't keep up with them, so.
Yeah. I was thinking, you say you learned from that. I mean, I learned, it wasn't really, I guess it was communication related, but the one ex that I have, she would do a thing where she would be having a bad day or something. It would have absolutely nothing to do with me. And I would be so convinced it had something to do with me. And I cannot exist knowing that there is a problem. I have to know. We're going to talk about it. And I need to get it off of my chest and know that there's not this anxiety around there's an issue. Like, I cannot live with conflict. It's got to be out the door. And so I would push a lot. And I would be like, are you good? And then I would just send to me text messages, whatever it may be, to try to get answers.
I feel like I'm that way too.
And all I needed, which now this person is better about this, we're best friends now, but with who they're with now, I was like, listen, this is a thing you do, and you're going to need to, work on that. But all I ever needed was just being told, oh, I just had a bad day or something else is wrong. It has nothing to do with you. And then I have the ability to just leave it be. But what I was going to say, though, is that that's something I took from that relationship that I'm going to say usually good about now.
No, yeah.
But
I feel like that is a hit or miss, because it's kind of, so the way that you are with that and feeling like you are anxious in that moment of things, for her to be like your girlfriend, like, and you said that you've learned a lot from it now, and hopefully she has too. You guys are really close. But for a person who does go through that and you feel as though you're anxious, and then do you ever feel like whenever you had those moments that you would ask what was wrong, they would get mad and they'd be like, nothing's wrong. Stop asking me what is wrong. Like, why are you asking me that? And it's like, at that point, you're like, I feel annoying. And then you get in those little routines of all you want to know is what the fuck is wrong. You know how a person acts. You get in their routine. And so you know when something seems off. And I'm not saying that like she made you feel invalid for that or anything, but the way that I have been put in those situations, I was invalid for just needing to know because I knew something was off. Mm-hmm. And it didn't have to be about me. Their cat could have ran out the window for all I know. I would just like to know. And I can be understanding there, and I can be like, okay. And also, there's nothing wrong with asking for space or me needing space. Like, hey, you don't even have to tell me what's wrong. Just be like, hey, I've had a really bad day and I don't want to talk about it right now. But just know, like, you did nothing wrong. And let me just have some time to myself.
Yeah.
But people can't do that. Mm-mm. Like, they really can't. And it's something that I'm working on as well, along with communication and having that space open for other people. I don't want people to feel like, I want them to know how I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. But if I don't have the space at that time to talk about it, then I'm sorry, but I'm going to talk about it on my own time. And it's not, and now I'm just talking general, like if I'm upset, not with them. If I'm upset with them, then yes, in that moment, they deserve to know. But if I'm going through something and like, I really love my friends whenever they're like, I can just feel like something's off with you. I don't want to feel like I'm obligated to talk in that moment about what's going on. And it's not that I lack communication. It's just right now I need to breathe. I need to be in my own thought process. And I feel like with this situation, with anxiety and communication, those two are like hitting each other. And it's like, holy crap, how do we figure this out? Like, you can't just stop your anxious thoughts in those moments. You're like, you feel everything and you get shaky and I know the exact feeling that you're feeling right now. And it's like, there's a heavy part like over your chest and you're like, what did I do? Oh my gosh. And then you blow up their phone and you're like, talk to me about it, blah, blah. And then they're like, I don't want to talk, And it's like a spiral. It's a cycle that, it fucking sucks.
Talking about space and stuff. So there's this, I haven't told you this. So I went through a little phase a couple months ago where there's a podcast that's literally called Relationship Advice. I didn't really feel like I needed any of this advice, but I just got really obsessed with communication stuff and like all of these tactics and ways to improve this and that. And so I was listening to one, and they have a lot of different like researchers and couples therapists, and it's a married couple that talks to them about different things. And there was one where they were talking a little bit about this, and they said just a random tip that seems to fit here that people can take with them is they had someone on there who said that one thing that really helps is if you go to them and you say that whether something's being driven by a conflict with the other person or it's about something else, and you say, hey, I need some time to gather my thoughts, so I'm going to take some space, and you put an end cap on it, whether that's a day, whether that's 30 minutes or something, so the other person knows that, okay, we're still in this time frame, so it relieves some of that pressure of when am I going to hear back? When are they going to come back? When are we going to talk about it?
So I see that perspective, but also with the person that's going through it, I don't really know if you can put a time frame on how they're feeling. I think it does work with them, the other person being anxious and having those anxious thoughts of like wanting to communicate and talk about it. But also for that other person, like you don't necessarily know whenever they're going to be able in that moment to talk about it. But how I look into that is with Texas, what we worked on in our relationship is if we were upset in the moment, because we were like the same person and like we understood each other, but also we were the perfect opposite of each other. And it wasn't a agree to disagree on like topics and how we felt and why we were upset. And we learned from one another that if we took time to ourselves, we would be like we would read each other's texts. And then there would be time where the first message of both of us would be, hey, I'm sorry, I just needed to process. I just needed to process, and I just needed that way, because you know me, I talked about it in our first episode where I can snap and I say things without thinking and I don't bite my tongue. And that's something that I have been really working hard towards, is because I want to be able to communicate. And I think there is a difference in communication, like in a healthy way.
Oh, for sure.
And being able to, because even though I'm upset and I may have a bad day, there's no reason why I should be taking it out and like with that communication factor, taking it out on the person that I love. And I think it's very healthy for people to be able to have that space and ask for it and be like, right now, regardless if you did something wrong or not, I just simply don't want to talk about it. But let's gather our thoughts and process this, and we'll talk about it whenever we're at a healthy standpoint with one another. And that has helped tremendously. And it also takes into play, it can't be one-sided. Both people have to be in that state of mind of being like, hey, you're going through it right now. You're having a bad time, regardless if it's about me or not. We will talk about it and we will process it. And it's on them. If they don't want to, if that person doesn't want to process it with you, then like take steps back. Like that's a whole nother thing that we can get into down the road, but open your fucking eyes. Open your eyes. Whenever it does come to communication, there is a way to communicate with one another healthy, but both people have to do it. And I will stand by that. It can't be just one-sided.
Yeah. One thing I saw today when I was looking up stuff was that a lot of it comes down to learning how to appropriately argue without turning it into this entirely defensive situation where, someone's threatening to leave, or we've seen that happen under our house, but or roof, I guess, whatever. But yeah, learning how,
basically jumping the gun.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I read that today and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Because it's interesting. Actually, okay, I can talk about this. It's interesting because saying learning how to argue appropriately is interesting because Morgan and I, sometimes I think about it, I'm like, no, we don't really fight. And then I go, well, actually, I guess we have. It just doesn't feel like it's the same. It doesn't feel like that's what it is because it's always so low key. And so, and usually they don't last that long. Yeah. I feel like we're pretty good about things. But with us, it's been an interesting road because Morgan came from a background of not, she wasn't that great at communication, but what we really found is it wasn't so much that as much as it was needing to know that the space was there to do it and talk about things and bring things up and know that I'm not gonna be like, fuck that.
Yeah.
And that alone is, I think, one of the biggest pieces is because most of the time people don't want to communicate because there's this fear of rejection. And usually, I mean, there's so many examples of couples and people I know who every time they bring something up to the other person, there's this automatic defense mechanism kicks in and they never actually get through anything. They just go in the same circle over and over again. And it's about being able to just work as a team on the actual problem and not making a me versus them.
I actually have something to add to that as well.
Let's hear it.
So so let's use this as an example. Say that I am out and I'm in a relationship and there is one little spark of something that I guess it could necessarily be a trigger, whatever, that upsets me. And me and my significant other, my girlfriend, we were to get into an argument. And what I wanted to add to that, to what you said, is not only are we arguing in that moment of what is happening, which I don't argue in public, keep that shit behind closed doors, but I'm just using an example. But then we are arguing and then something sparks from a past argument because we did not communicate about it. It's bottled up. So then we're running around and getting like it elevate, like we're yelling at this point, upset, because I feel like that is a big factor as well, is communication on previous past arguments and not bringing them up into the current. Because if they are, then that bottled up and everything is it's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get, you're not resolving that issue at that point. And that made me think of that because it does spark off of that. And 9 times out of 10, previous issues are not resolved from a past argument, whatever it may be. Sometimes it's about exes. And then it just, And then you're in that constant cycle. And from that, at that point, you're in a hole. And how do you get out of that hole? What, you wake up and you're like, okay, we're gonna do this. And the one thing you might start off of is, we're gonna start communicating. I feel this way and I feel that way. But you don't look at all the past stuff that has led up to where you are. You let it get this way. You let it become this negative, this unhealthy. And you know what? This is something that I have said in the house. This is something that I preach all the time. Like, take an egg and throw it on the ground, a plate, whatever it may be. Like, take it and throw it and then put it back together for me. Put the fucking egg back together. It's broken. And I get it. Broken things can be fixed, but lack of communication is just a next step of everything else spiraling down. And I don't necessarily know. If you don't have that in the willingness of two people, I don't know how it can be fixed. And I'm being fucking real right now. I am being real.
You are on one. Also, I'm going to add something to this, and you're going to be like, no way you had that written down. But I had a note over here to bring up how, I'm going to come full circle back to this, hold on, about how usually people are scared of vulnerability because they're scared of rejection. And usually I'm going to bring Brene Brown back out to the table. I'm taking this metaphor, what have you, from her. She was talking about how to have vulnerability, you also have to have trust. But to get the trust, you also have to have vulnerability. Which, for our listeners, the vulnerability and communication thing go hand in hand. You have to be able to be vulnerable to get the communication. You're going to have to be able to communicate to be vulnerable. It's a hand in hand. But anyway, she was saying you have to have trust to be vulnerable and give vulnerability for the trust.
Yeah.
And she said, it's really a what came first situation, the chicken or the egg? And I'm like, well, in this scenario, that egg got thrown at a wall. But it actually fits with what it was.
It does fit. That fits perfect. And you hit that spot fucking on.
I've never heard you even say this thing about the egg. That's why this was good. That was good.
Oh, I thought you did hear me. I've
never heard that. I don't remember a lot of things from that period of time.
I know my brain has trauma from it, so I try to exit it out. But no, I mean, it is, and it does suck because I see people around my group of friends, and I do think all of my friends love the person that they're in a relationship with, but some of them, looking back on them, is it for the right reasons? And these things that it breaks my heart because a lot of problems would be solved in a lot of these relationships if they had open communication.
Oh, 100%.
And I look at it and it's like, I wish I could be there to like show them like, hey, here's what I see and here's what, but then again, my opinion don't matter. And it's their relationship. It really is. But I see these things and I'm like, damn, they are really happy. Like they look really happy, but they have this one little bump that is going to fuck up a lot of shit if they don't reel it in and they take it, like they hit it face on. And sometimes you have to hit that face on to fix that brokenness. Mm-hmm. You have to hit it and you have to both be open to that. You have to have those tough conversations. Regardless, if you make a choice that you know is going to hurt your significant other, but you don't think of your actions before doing that, if you have the balls to make that choice, then you should have the balls to communicate to them about it.
Oh, look at you go.
I'm just speaking.
No, it's true.
I'm speaking truth right now. And it is sad. And I'm not perfect. There is a lot of shit I am learning right now. But one thing I am doing for myself is I'm being honest with myself, and I'm being honest with the people in my life. And I'm working on that communication with them. And this goes for family members. This goes for friendships. This goes for even if I were to ever like get a relationship down the road. Right now, I'm definitely focusing on myself. But I'm at the point now where I'm open to have that honest communication. And they'll look back whenever I am honest with people in my life. They'll look back and I hope that they're like, no one has been as real to me as you have. And maybe they'll fucking learn something. And if they don't, then that's on them. But if I'm honest and they want to leave my life, then like it goes into, I want people in my life that want to be there and that want to hear what I have to say and care about the things that I say. And I'm not saying I'm fucking Dr. Phil here giving relationship advice, but I am saying there are a lot of things that I see with communication in relationships that I am around. And if their communication was better, then it would be a lot more healthy. It would take them a long, long way. And it's like,
I think, we're going to bring good old society these days into this.
Oh, yeah.
But society has kind of created, I don't even know how we let this happen, but there's very much so this look of don't tell them too much about yourself too fast, or don't seem desperate, and don't this and don't that. And I think it's taught us not to communicate to a certain degree, at least on that front end of, the line. And it's you talking about you want people who want to be there in your life, which brings me to this as well, is how to bring vulnerability back in. If you're vulnerable and you talk about the harder things from your own personal life, whatever has happened to you, whatever it is, you find out how much that other person is actually going to accept you and want to be with you. So I'm like, let's let it out.
At the beginning, let's talk about it. And
Not saying let's talk about our deepest trauma on the first date.
No.
But yeah.
But getting there and having that deep conversation, like, I love that. I want to know what you've been through. I don't fuck your favorite color. I'll figure that out. I will figure out your favorite color and your lucky number and your shoe size. But tell me, what have you been through? Like, what hurt you? What made you who you are today? Let's hear it all. Let's bring it all to the table, because I'd rather find out now than 6 months down the road and be like blindsided and be like, what do I do with this information? And that's how it's all about being very upfront and transparent in the beginning of relationships. And it does come back to society. And this society, this generation, all of it is so quick to give up when shit gets rough.
Yep.
And it goes back to like who hurt them in the past and not being able to move forward from it, or what they've been through as a child. But if you have those upfront conversations in the beginning, it's going to take you a long way, because you're both going to understand. And sometimes, like, whenever you meet that person, if you're already vibing with them and you're having like good conversation as it is, like you're having a good time, you feel that little smile on your face whenever you see their name pop up on your phone. You guys are going to relate to a lot of shit you've fucking been through.
Yeah.
And it's going to feed off of that. And you're going to be like, wow. And in those moments, because I've had this moment before, it was with my last relationship. I was like, I never thought anyone could understand me the way that this person does, because we did let everything out in the beginning. There's a difference between like rushing into things versus being open and honest about what you've been through. But whenever we had those conversations and we were open with one another, it made me understand so much of them down the road, like down the road of our relationship. And it grew us together like quicker. And it was great. I think they hold back because, like, I think people in general hold back because of someone who has disappointed them in the past or wasn't understanding of what they've been through, or they were shut out. And it fucking sucks. But again, this goes back to the first episode. Jump into that arena with someone new.
Yep.
Like, oh man, you're hitting these good points. And I'm like, yeah, let me bounce back on that because that's good. Like I enjoy what you just said, for real.
And to even hit on that a little more, there's kind of this deal of when it comes to, I'm going to bring back Brene Brown. I'm going to go through this real quick. So Brene talks about how I've been listening to her book at work. So a lot of this today is from that. But I like really have to make you watch the TED Talk and the special, and then we can just talk about that on its whole thing. But I found out she calls herself a shame researcher. Basically, people's inability to be vulnerable comes from the deep root of shame, which shame comes in a lot of different forms. It's very much like you can fill it in easy with saying, I'm not blank enough. And today there was a moment in the book where she was talking about that arena again, and she was talking about how, you can get out of the arena and shame is the thing waiting in the parking lot after you lost a battle and you go out there and it's like, oh, hey, that really didn't work out. I told you it wasn't going to work, and you never want to do that again. And it keeps you in this spot. And you have to learn how to be shame resilient to be able to be vulnerable, which again leads to that communication factor. But there's this whole thing in how shame makes us think, yeah, but no one's going to love me because of these things. But what you actually find out is you feel the most love when the other person loves you because of them.
Damn. Yeah.
And so, and something I even brought up last week is how she talks about how you don't really know true success and all of this stuff without jumping in that arena. And you got to get in that arena to feel that love that I just mentioned. So if you don't do it, and we have this society that, again, makes it really hard to actually want to get in there, because we do live in this time where I feel like, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's very much all right, I got to get out of here before they hurt me first.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. It's like a race. And the reason why I say this is because I have been this way as well. I've never really played the game of who's going to leave first. I've thought it in my head.
I don't think people even really realize that that's what they're doing.
Well, it's like I live in the way that I live in my mind is, even since I was a child, I have lived in my mind that everyone leaves. As sad as this is, like, which I am the young woman I am today because of it, but I was not my dad's choice to get sober. I was not my mother's choice to get sober. All I had was my godmother. Like, they constantly were in and out of my childhood. And then I've had these relationship experiences where they all have left. I've not dumped anyone. I've not broken up with anyone. So then I go down this spiral of, is it me? Am I doing something wrong? Am I being too much? All these thoughts. And they're not negative, or they're not positive thoughts. They're negative, and they suck to even think about that, because at the end of the day, I'm like, why do people always fucking leave? And then now, because of that, and I haven't given my time to work getting past all of that, then every person that comes into my life, regardless if it's a new friendship or relationship, I have this expectation, and my first thought is, when are they going to leave? And then I go in this circle, and it's like, now with these people in my life, do I push them? Am I that hard to love? Do I push them to fucking leave? And it fucking sucks thinking that. It sucks thinking that way. But it's also, I'm at the point now where I don't know. I am 22 years old. I had to grow up at such a young age. And I told one of my friends this. I was like, I don't think anyone can love me the way that I love them, because it's definitely a mommy and daddy issue. I literally crave love. You would think that I would be a heartless piece of shit for what like I've been through and everything, but I crave it and I want it so bad and I give it, and then it's like too much. And at this point, I'm like, it's not necessarily that no one can love me like for who I am, and it's not that I do love them so much. It's just maybe like right person, wrong time, or maybe I just haven't met that person. And then I look in the mirror and I'm like, you have this love and you've been let down so much, and like, don't fucking throw a pity party. Look in the mirror and love yourself. Give yourself that love. And that's kind of where I'm at on the spectrum of like what you just talked about. And it does suck. I mean, it is a feeling where you kind of feel like, oh, I'm unwanted. But at the end of the day, like, what's meant for me isn't going to miss me. You know, I do not chase, I attract. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because it's like, I'm still kicking, and all these relationships, I mean, at this point, I don't know. I can't speak for them. I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was the things that I do. Most of them ended on bad terms besides like 3 of them. And they tell me, they reassure me like it wasn't me. It's just they really needed to like work on themselves and choose themselves. And I'm glad that people are able to do that. I usually stick through that shit. But it's just, I feel like these relationships could have been saved with one fucking thing: communication and not being stringed along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just went on a whole thing.
I fucking did.
For that. Yeah.
I did. Well, I bounced off of what you were saying about the shame.
I will say though, you know, talking about right person, wrong time, or not having met them. I am at least a true believer right now that I'm like, if someone who's right for you shows up, you don't actually have to try that hard, and it will work.
Yeah, it'll come. Like, my problem is I've been chasing. There was one relationship, my past relationship, I didn't chase after that. That relationship came to me. It just wasn't the right time. And it has made me grown so much individually and as a person who, like, I know what to expect in a relationship that I deserve to be in. And I know also what I should give. I learned like a lot of my flaws and where the areas where I needed to grow, because that's where we were open with that communication. And that's kind of where we left things off of like, we're open to this. This has been very healthy, but it's just like not right now. And I feel like a lot of people it's okay to do that. Mm-hmm. It isn't in this society's normal. So people think the end is the fucking end, and it's not. And it goes back into, everything can go back into 3 things. I would say the major 3 things is communication, trust, and vulnerability. You need to at least have one of those. And if you fucking don't, then you have striked out, and you need to go back home. Like,
if you don't have any of those, you got nothing at that point.
And it's hard for people to actually look in the mirror and accept that. But it's also like, once you do accept that, you're going to have a completely different outcome with yourself, with relationships you're in, with relationships that may have left off negatively. You can pick something up and bring it back by those 3 things: trust, vulnerability, and communication. And you have to start somewhere. And if you don't, then you're literally waking up every day and you're going to be disappointed. You're asking to be disappointed there. Regardless if it's with the love of your life, with your father, with your mother, with your sister, you are asking for that to just fail right then and there. And I'm sorry for people who are able to have those three things, but have people in their life who are not able to, because it can negatively affect you to where you then start lacking that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a whole other subject.
Dude, I feel like we run off of so many topics on these episodes.
I feel like we can spin on this one for a good couple. So
yeah.
Yeah. No, if someone cannot meet you there and is reluctant to work on that, you have to learn how to put up a boundary to be like, no, I'm not going to let this take me down with the ship.
Exactly. All because, and that goes into being understanding as well. You can love someone and they can lack those things and you can be those things, but it's also it doesn't hurt to sometimes say, and this goes for the person that lacks those, it doesn't hurt for those who are able to do that in a relationship and be like, hey, how can I help you get there? And that conversation, that can go a long way, because some people are not able to bring up hard topics in relationships. And if you are willing, you have that willingness for that person, you may know it's up in the air and you're like, when's the right time to bring this up? But that conversation can go a long way. And I feel like once you're in a relationship that is that serious, you have an understanding of that person. You can read them like the back of your hand. And it's maybe they don't know how to bring things up like that. Maybe they are waiting for you to bring it up. And then you do bring it up. And then it's like a holiday, dude. Christmas, just 4th of July, everything exploded.
This is funny. So how Morgan and I have been, although she's gotten a little better at coming to the table, is I have learned I can tell something's wrong. I can read her like a book. It takes me 5 seconds and I'm like, I get home and I'm like, something's wrong. Wake up in the morning, 2 seconds all I need. I'm like, something's wrong. And I have learned if I ask her if something's wrong, 90% of the time, I feel like she's going to be like, no, it's fine. Or at least used to be. We've gotten past this a little bit. I had to learn, a little tip for everyone out there. I had to learn how to ask the correct, specific questions to unlock the door. And once I could get that door open, then we're in business. We're doing good. The channels were opened up. We were fine after that, but it did take learning how to. But now over time, I think with us, especially her, is she's gotten really good at learning how to talk to me about things.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I had to take some of my own advice today before you came over, because we live in a no shoe house and all our shoes are at the front door. And at one time, forever ago, I was the one annoyed at how many shoes were there. And she came up to me before you got here and she said, Faith, there are 5 pairs of Vans at the door. Do you wear all 5 of them? And I had a little thing down here inside wanting to be annoyed about it. But I was like, there is no reason to be mad at this. So I'm just going to tell that to go away and shut up.
Yeah, at that point, were they all your Vans?
Oh, all 5 pairs of those. Well, then I started counting. I was like, wow, 5 out of 9 pairs of shoes here are mine. And there are 3 people in this house.
What I find funny with that that just goes to show also how they're little. I wouldn't even call that an argument, but
it was, yeah.
The little shoe thing, that's probably how small their little arguments are, which is adorable. I must say, but what I'm saying is what's funny is you had the problem with the shoes in the beginning, and then you had the most shoes out there on the door. And so what's funny is it kind of backfired on you because you were like, oh, these shoes are driving me insane. But now you have the most shoes out there out of the 9 pair.
I know. And now after you leave, I'm like, I'm gonna go put some of those shoes up. I hear Morgan laughing right now.
Yeah, I hear her laughing too because she's probably like, yeah, Christian, she just pwned you. Oh
man. No, that was like a moment where I was like, huh, wow, really haven't taken my own advice on something so small right now.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, no, I guess I can tell some more stories on us, talking about vulnerability and whatnot. This is going to get a little sad for 2 seconds, but then it's really going to have a good turnaround.
It's fine.
I'm glad I never told you these stories.
I know, but I'm about to learn from you.
Something I wanted to bring up, I was talking about how you want, when you're vulnerable and stuff, you can find out if that person is going to love you for those things, not like in spite of them per se. And when you bring things to the table that are hard or whatnot, and they're like still there to stick around and they're all good, you're just like, man, this is great. And there's like an extra connection that happens. And so I have 2 really silly moments that I can bring up that we have had that you're really going to love. One of my first ones was when, so over the fall, I gained a little weight, like, good little bit. And it's like all of a sudden one day I realized that it was a thing. And I went back, we were going to go somewhere, and I go back into the room and I'm going to put on pants that I thought were these pants. I was convinced that they were these pants. And she's already laughing. And I go to put them on, and I like cannot get these freaking pants past here. And I was like, oh my God, like I knew I gained a little weight, but damn. And she walks in, and there's just me with these pants that I just cannot get. And I told her, I was like, I'm freaking out right now. And then I realized, oh, these are not the pants that I thought they were. But I just had this whole moment where I was like,
my gosh,
she's just seeing me right now with these pants that I can't get barely past my knee. But
it was the wrong pants.
So funny. It was the wrong pants. But there was just this moment in that where I was like, oh man, I do love her. This is funny. I was like, she's out here watching this go down. And, and another one is before we officially got together, I don't actually think anything had really happened yet. And I was at a friend's house. I'm going to regret telling this story later too, but I was at a friend's house before I came here, and this is the first time I ever noticed it. And you're going to start checking yourself for this. But I was like at their house, and I felt something. I realized I had this oddly long hair, like right here in my neck. And like, I was like, how the heck did it get here all this time and no one noticed it, including myself? So anyways, I got it out or whatever before I came over here. Well, you fast forward, I found it again one day, and I was like, man, this thing just keeps growing back. And one day we were on the bed, and I noticed it. I was like, I have like a tear from laughing on my face. I realized that there was another one. And I said something about I don't know. I think she saw me touching it or something. I don't know. And she's like, what is it? And she's like, oh, I can pluck that out. So I think real love is when they get their tweezers out.
And they pluck
your neck hair out. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I was so weird about that at one point. But I'm like, here we are.
Well, that's like, yeah. I almost said the name. Wow. Texas she would like get my blackheads. Or if I had like a pimple like on my back, and I was like, damn. But some people also like that stuff. Like, and that is definitely, I wouldn't even say that is weird though. It's just you're comfortable. Like you're that comfortable with that person that it doesn't really, like, it doesn't gross you out. whenever they. But what's funny is you said I'm gonna be looking for this now. Like
You're every
Am
now
I
and then
gonna
you're gonna look in the mirror and you're like,
am I gonna get
do I have
long neck hair?
I never had that happen until like last summer.
Well, now I'm gonna be looking. I'm gonna be
I didn't know that was a thing that happened. It's just one all by itself.
just one.
Just literally just one.
Is it in like the same spot?
I think it's the same spot every time. Were there two that one time, Morgan? Or was it one?
She said there was two.
Oh, I guess
There were two.
Okay, maybe
Are they
there
just
were two that
blonde?
last time? What?
Are they just blonde?
I guess. I don't know.
Well,
Anyways.
anyways, yeah.
Just a story about
True love right there.
really, really
Being real with
being
one
able
another.
to feel something when you just let it all out there.
Yeah. I feel that though. Allowing yourself to do that as well. I bet this relationship has taught you to allow yourself, putting yourself in a place you possibly like never looked at yourself being.
Oh, I tell her all the time. I'm like, I didn't know that this was a thing I could have.
Yeah.
Because we still have our little things, like anybody. But I think our main thing is that good old scary word, communication.
Communication.
Yeah. Having that be open and we've worked on it. And that's really been I would say is the main thing and why.
It's working on it and it's not giving up on it. Because if you give up on it, do you really think like you're not going to have these reoccurring issues in your next relationship?
Yeah. And I also, that reminds me of this, is I saw something today that was talking about how you have to be able to recognize the difference when something is uncomfortable versus being unhealthy. Because a lot of times people jump to the unhealthy thing and it's really just uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable because you're having to work out that vulnerability muscle. And people just freak out and they're like, no.
Yeah, I see a lot of people as well jumping to them thinking they're in an unhealthy relationship. And it's not even that it's unhealthy. It's just you need to have that tough conversation.
Yep.
And for those who are like, okay, because there might be our audience, they may be like, where do I start with that? I think where you begin is that you start the conversation being as open as possible. Hey, this is how I'm feeling. And the thing is also with communication, do not, and I'm going to say this one more time, do not interrupt. Listen. Actually allow yourself to listen whenever you do. And I'm saying for the person that is coming to you about communicating and like whatever it may be that you need in your relationship, but being open to that conversation of listening. And listening can also take you a very, very long way.
That was good stuff.
Yeah. I'm here for it.
I think maybe we can wrap this one up, but then I think we're going to have more to talk about on this subject probably next week. So
I think it's just we're trying to figure out the topic names, but it's also like part series for it. So, but we appreciate you all for the first episode, everyone's support and feedback, and that we're excited for what's to come next.
Actually, okay, so I'm going to, on this, before we wrap this up, we can edit this if this is a horrible idea and you don't want to use it. But I'm like, part of me is like, we should ask people to send us a scenario to give advice on.
Ooh, I
want to
like
take
that.
one,
I like that a lot.
So,
for those listening,
Yeah. If you have something you want to get our input on.
I love how you said scenario.
I couldn't decide in the moment if it was scenario or scenario, so
But yes.
But if you have something, send it in to us at vulnerabilityisinpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
And we will maybe
you can also DM us on Instagram too.
Yeah, you could DM No Subject Apparel as well. But also we won't reveal who you are when you ask, unless you ask us to. I don't know. But
This is a new thing, so just
it's
bear
a new
with
thing
us.
we're just doing. So, all right.
All right.
But yeah, next week we'll talk some more about this and hopefully have something from one of you to bring up and talk about.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks, guys, for listening.
You can follow us over at No Subject Apparel on all social media.
You can discover us on YouTube.
And please like, subscribe, follow, and review us on whatever platform you're currently listening on.
New episodes will be dropped every Tuesday.
And you can sign up for our mailing list in the description of this episode to get a personal message from us and reminders for new episodes every week.